Well, hello and welcome to another exclusive interview by Recovery Today Magazine at recoverytodaymagazine.com, where first and foremost, we're a magazine of hope. Whether you're considering addiction recovery for yourself, a loved one, you're actively in recovery maybe a little while or a long, long time, you're going to find all kinds of information, topics related to addiction recovery, really living a happy, successful, and sober life here at Recovery Today. My name's Rob Hanley. I'm the editor-in-chief of Recovery Today, and I'm joined by a guest that really he got our attention. He is in the recovery field, but what they're doing at their place is pretty different than anything that I've seen that's out there before, particularly in actually building into a program. And so we thought we needed really to spotlight this and tell people about it. It's part of the solution. Please meet Drew Stevens.
Hey, Rob.
Drew's quick story, let me give everybody a little bit of a kind of a thing, then we'll get deep into it here. But his own story, it started out with depression, anxiety, addiction, and he set out to establish a treatment center, a facility. He's located in College Station, Texas. It's called More Than Rehab. And what got our attention is, it actually is. What they do is they help their clients not only to create a dream and a vision for themselves, but also to take tangible steps to achieving their vision. And this is the part that's really cool. They do it before they leave. So, Drew, thanks again, man, for coming on. I just kind of wanted to lay that foundation before we get started, man.
Yeah, Rob, thanks so much for having me on. I really appreciate it. Excited to share a little bit about More Than Rehab and what we do to help folks.
Absolutely. Well, let's tee it off there, man. Give us a little bit of your, who you are and your background and all that kind of stuff and how you started to get into this space.
Yeah, absolutely. So I started struggling with addiction at a pretty young age. I was about 17 years old or so. Kind of, initially just dabbled like most folks do. And then had some pretty severe trauma in my life at age 18. My grandmother had died in my arms. At Philadelphia International Airport, it's just a really, really tough situation for me. And the next thing I knew, I was really using, drugs and alcohol to cope with the pain that I was dealing with at the time, not realizing just, the severity of my depression, my anxiety, and my PTSD. And so I actually reached out for help on my own. I wanted to get well. I knew that things weren't going great for me, but was really continuing to struggle. So I knew it was time to have some sort of professional help. It got outside of my hands. I had tried to stop, multiple times with no success. So from there, I went to my first treatment center, which it was what we call in the industry a cash pay treatment center. So it wasn't a treatment center that utilized anybody's health insurance. It was just something that I paid for out of my own pocket. And that experience was really, really unique for me. It showed me what treatment centers can do when they don't have to follow, really strict insurance guidelines for billing. They were just allowed to do what they thought was going to be very, very best for me. Unfortunately, after many months of being in that program, I was still really struggling, and for me, I needed a little bit more structure. And so through that, I went out to California. This is probably age 19, 20. Went out to California and went to a treatment center out there that was an insurance-based type of treatment facility that had just a lot more structure than what I was used to.
Real quick, the structure in the first place, I mean, you don't need to identify them or anything like that, but like the structure in the first place, because I'm thinking, I think most people are thinking like, in general, when you go, you're generally not going to have your phone and stuff like that. You're not going to be doing hookups and things while you're there. So, I mean, it seems like there's always going to be some kind of structure. Like, give me an idea like how loosey-goosey the first place might have been and then contrast.
Yeah, so the first place that I went to, a very unique model. What they did was really a lot more one-on-one type of clinical therapy, and so they had a lot of LPC interns, licensed professional counselor interns. They were still in school, and they were working on becoming, LPC supervisors. And so actually, I was kind of living with those guys in a nice hotel room in Dallas, and so it was a lot of one-on-one stuff, a lot of kind of psychotherapy. but it wasn't really for me. It wasn't what I needed at this point in my addiction. You know, even though I knew that I wanted to help, I was really still gaming the system, and so that was something that was just a little bit too easy for a guy like me to
kind of
work
the
with.
manipulative side in the background type of deal.
Yeah, it was still kind of there, and these guys were really heavily involved in not just addiction, but mental health, which was a great component of something that I learned there. But also, again, it was mainly reserved, you know, for executives. So they gave you a lot of freedom that you wouldn't normally find. You had a lot of people who were, you know, full-time working still, and so it was more of a clandestine type operation, right? We don't want everybody to know you've got these issues. Let me try and help you out with these things kind of on the side.
Got it.
Something a little more.
Got it. So you got to California, you find a difference. So I guess it didn't work.
Didn't work.
And then you got to California, dude. You're thinking, okay, I actually have to get help. And so you go out there and you find a place that's more structured, again, insurance-based type of place. Yeah,
and that was. I wish I could tell you that was the end of the story, but I had actually continued to struggle even in those environments for really probably almost 2 years, kind of going in and out, you know, of the treatment cycle that a lot of people get caught up in out there.
It's part of the model sometimes, right? It's part of the business model.
It really is part of the business model, right? And that's something that I learned and something that I wanted to apply, you know, in my treatment center to make it a little bit different. But most of these insurance-based treatment centers, it's pretty lucrative for them when you're able to go from a detox residential level of care, which is inpatient, then they put you into, you know, outpatient programming and don't want to monitor you as closely as probably you need. That way they'll get you back in the higher levels of care. That's a little bit more lucrative for them. So I struggled in that, you know, for several years. But I will say that I learned quite a bit. Throughout that time, I learned the values of both a cash pay model, very clinically focused, and I also learned about a more structured model. My goal was to fuse those two things together and create something that was a little bit unique. So that's kind of how the vision of More Than Rehab came into place. It was something along the lines of, I think people need a lot of structure, but I also think they actually do need that individualized treatment that everybody likes to talk about, but don't actually want to perform. And so that was kind of the basis for my model.
It just sounds kind of good, like on paper, like we do individualized and stuff like that, but it doesn't really happen that much.
Yeah, if you could find a treatment center that didn't use the word individualized or treatment modality on their website, I'd be shocked.
Yeah,
that's pretty much the uses.
You're not going to find that. Well, let's talk about your place. First of all, it's called More Than Rehab. Yeah. I like that. It begs the question, and we had talked, of course, you know, before about this as I learned about your place. It, you know, screams like, well, what is the more part? Why would anybody call their place More Than Rehab? And first of all, I guess the simple question is, how long have you guys been open?
We've been open now for about 3.5 years.
Okay. And you're in a tiny little place in College Station, big football. You guys play a little football down there, I think.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, kind of religion in that area. So what's the more part of More Than Rehab? Like, what is that?
Yeah, absolutely. So to me, what I realized throughout the many stints I did in various treatment facilities was that they generally wanted to give you as much as you needed, but nothing more. And so when I started this program, I realized that when we are identifying the root cause of addiction, whether that is, you know, depression, anxiety, whatever it is, there's also this factor that people have forgotten how to paint a vision for themselves, a good future. They've been so used to failing, living in this kind of depressed zone that they forget that there's a really, really good, happy life out there. And so what most treatment centers try to do is help them paint that vision, but then they drop them off at the airport and say, go have fun at home and good luck. I'm glad we were able to do that, and call me when you need help again. My vision was always to help them actually take that first step into whatever it is that vision was.
Yeah.
So for a lot of my folks, we specialize obviously in college students. So we're in a college town, so we get a lot of folks who say, I really want to go back to school, and so we help them with tutoring services. We stay on top of that. We help them with the admissions process. We teach them how to actually write an application for college. So we try and kind of take that extra step so that when people leave our program, they're confident about the direction that their life is going, and they have something that they can kind of dig their heels into and start enjoying again. And I think most treatment centers are missing that.
Your question, the kind of the demographic, like tell us, we're in a college town, and so you're treating a lot of college-age students. I guess it's pretty easy, I think, there. Like, first of all, how long do they stay with you, too? Like, it's not a 30, this isn't generally like a 30-day place,
I found over my time of doing this that there's different needs for different people, especially, what are their wants when they come into treatment. There are some people that are just so dead set on, I need to get detoxed and I'm ready to go. We can accommodate that. More likely than not, though, they need more than that. And so what we like to do is, when they come in, we take it on a case-by-case basis. We do have an affiliate partner that runs sober living facilities here. We put them generally over there when they're done their 90-day program with us, and we maintain great communication with them. And that's kind of how our program works. So the program could be really anywhere from 90 days to we've had people that have been with us over 6 months, whatever it really takes for them.
So I have to ask this then, too, because knowing a decent amount about the treatments, the business side of the treatment center industry, and even really learning some of it from our mutual friend, Mike, whom connected us together. He kind of painted the dark side of the treatment center business. He told me some stuff I didn't even know, actually, like, places will place people phone-ins or whatever, marketing will place people in a rehab and then literally intentionally look to have them go there, get them on drugs again and take them to the next and the next. I mean, it was pretty depraved stuff. We're actually going to feature some things on that. But on the good side of it, because there's a lot, and I tend to think that people are good. There's a lot of places out there that they all have the right intentions and the right motives and things like that. And the insurance model hasn't been around, I don't think, for that long, maybe 7, 8, 10 years, I'll say. I don't really know. There is the mental health parity law. And you probably know where I'm going now, is it went from really extremely lucrative if you were a facility of any kind, actually, but it was very, very lucrative. And then all of a sudden, about 2015, the insurance companies just stopped paying. Like, I think the pendulum swung back really, really far. And now a lot of places are out of business. A lot of places should be out of business, but there's a lot of really good places that have been struggling. And what I've heard is that it's like almost impossible to keep somebody for beyond, like, they want to just bring a heroin addict and dismiss it after 14 days and say go back. Like, how are you able to do that and to keep them so long? Like, what's up with that?
Yeah, sure. So part of that is that sometimes we're just not reimbursed. Sometimes that's what we have to do to get somebody well. You're right. The pendulum has swung back in favor, certainly, of the insurance companies, and that's not surprising. There's a lot of very unscrupulous providers in this space. Insurance companies got burned really, really bad, and they're trying to cut their losses. That exists and that happens. My goal has just to be a treatment center that's excellent at what we do, and I think through that we've developed great relationships with insurance companies. You get to know kind of the UR people that you're dealing with, the utilization review, the people who decide whether or not you'll be authorized any more care. We do all of our stuff in-house. They know our employees. They know the kind of work we do. They know that we'll hang on to that person as long as we possibly can to get them well. And I think that as they see that over time, you start developing better trust with them. We're also an in-network facility. So what that means for folks who are not super aware of it is an out-of-network provider. You don't have to play by all the same rules, but it's you don't know how much you're going to get reimbursed. You could have a very high rate that you charge, and the insurance company will pay you what they want to pay you.
Sometimes it's really bad too.
Sometimes it's terrible. Yeah, sometimes it's terrible, and so that's kind of the game that those centers have to play, right? They got to balance out really high-paying policies with people who don't have much, and that's the game they play. We went in network, which means that we just have a contractual rate with the insurance companies. We know what we're going to get paid, every day, and it really takes the drive and motivation away for any of that. It's been a really good decision for us, and we feel that as we continue to gain great relationships with the insurance companies, we can put ourselves in a good financial.
I'm really amazed by that, and I don't want to focus necessarily too much on the insurance side, but it catches me. I mean, it might be kind of boring for somebody thinking, that's out there, except when you have good insurance and you go to a place and then they kick you out after a little while. They say, sorry, your insurance, decline. I mean, when you have good insurance, whole other kettle of fish. But I'm just still really intrigued by the whole side of the more than rehab. Like first of all, what is it all that you treat? Is it substance abuse? Is there any non-substance abuse? What do you guys treat there?
Yeah, so my position has always been that we want to be really excellent at what we do, and so I've narrowed us down into really focusing on substance abuse disorder. We do treat co-occurring disorders, the standard ones that you might hear about. Addiction. Addiction is generally categorized with depression, anxiety, sometimes personality disorders, or bipolar disorder. Yeah, PTSD. All those things are really pretty standard. Generally, actually, there's a consensus that addiction doesn't generally happen without some form of trauma, and so we have to be able to treat those things. I personally hand-selected, our clinical director. His name's Michael Thompson. He's fantastic at his job. He had worked in the prison system for many years, and so he was used to seeing stuff that was just a lot more complex and complicated than the addiction issues that we generally deal with. And I think that's put us in a great position to kind of treat those underlying disorders. Now, when it comes to eating disorders or behavioral addiction,
addiction,
gambling, all that kind of stuff, we leave that to some other people, generally because their systems are actually set up with that in mind, and we see that they would be better providers than we would at that, so we like to let them do that.
So one of the things that you're doing, again, that was so different, because there's a lot of places that are out there, and we just want to see people get help. That's all that we care about. I really don't even care. First of all, actually, is your place more of a 12-step, or is it a non-12-step?
Yeah, great question. So throughout my time, again, at very different models, one thing I realized, which maybe the community doesn't want to tell you, is there's no easy answer to this. There's not. I can't just put you through the 12 steps and you're going to get well. I can't just give you the best therapist and you're going to get well. There's no one size fits all to this, and that is the more than part, right? That's when it's our job to figure out, what is the best model to introduce a particular person to.
So how do you determine that? Does that kind of go back to I know now it's funny, we circle all the way back around to individualized and all the stuff like that you read on everybody's thing, but the thing that was different was I think we traded some stuff back and forth. It was about kind of the vision and what they want. So is that kind of where it starts? What is it that you want? What's your goals, or what's different then, man?
Exactly. Yeah. So, you might, to me personally, the idea of black and white sobriety was so overwhelming to me that when I started enrolling in these 12-step, models, it just gave me anxiety. It's not that I'm saying what they're doing is wrong. It wasn't that. Yeah. It just wasn't the fit for me. And so what I see when I work with folks, I want to get their input on what they want their life to look like, and generally, again, when they come in on, their intake, they're pretty sick. They're not feeling very well. They just need a lot of support. After a week or two, though, once they kind of get their body feeling better and their mental state is at least progressing, we like to have a conversation that says, hey, what do you want to do with your life? What can I do to help you get there? that's the whole point, right? The whole point is the more than rehab. One of our biggest things was that I, as the CEO, needed to develop, relationships within the community that gave my clients an opportunity to do things that they wanted, to gain employment, to save up enough money to get a vehicle, to have a stable job, to have living accommodations, right? So many of these people have felonies, and they've been in treatment, and they know that, and apartment providers don't want to give them a place to live. These are all things that we navigate for the client, so that when they come in, they get to just focus on themselves.
Yeah, I should have probably even highlighted that a little better in the very beginning, but I did want to do a complete reveal right off the bat. But I guess now that you've let it out, even more, circle it and highlight it and stuff like that, that when your people leave, in general, they have some money in the bank. Is that right? They
Yep.
have a car. They've got a not only like, I'm going to be this, but they've actually, and I'm not talking about just enrolling in college, like maybe it's job applicant. So they actually know the direction they're going. They've got some scratch. They've got a vehicle. They have an actual plan. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. So maybe they want to be a contractor. Maybe they're a professional welder who had to sell all their tools so that they could use and be in active addiction. And so they come in with us, and we say, hey, listen, let's price out how much it's going to cost for you to get a brand new welding kit and a new tool.
Yeah, because they're thinking I'm just screwed. Like,
Right.
I've sold all my shit. I don't have anything. I'm a freaking drug addict. I'm screwed, man. How am I going to be a welder again? And you're like, well, how much would that cost?
That's right.
$80,000. It might be $800,000. How am I going to? Right? And you're like, no. Well, you could. Did you think? Right? Is that what you're going for?
You know what the program says? We're going to take the next indicated step, right? And so we help these folks do that. We help them put that plan together for themselves, and then we help them execute it. Again, so many treatment centers want to help you put together the plan, but they're not really interested in helping you make it happen. And so that's kind of where we come in. Yeah, I'm going to take you over to Harbor Freight, and we're going to go look at your tools, and we're going to price these things out, and we're going to help you get some jobs. We have great relationships with employers locally. They're not super high paying type of jobs, but they're a job that's going to accept you. You're going to go put your head down. You're going to get to work. You're going to save some money, and we generally help them do that through financial advisement. Somebody else is going to help them come up with a budget for themselves, and when they're ready, then they can go out in the world, right? And that's, we don't want to force them to have to do that any sooner than what's necessary. So if we have to make room, we're just going to make room.
What do you do with a guy, or do you ever find people that just say, I'm screwed, I'm hopeless, they're like, no, but like, what is you? Nothing. Like, I don't, like, do you find anybody either that's obstinate, that they're like, I have no vision, no dream, no hope, or maybe they're just more hopeless, like, don't know.
Yeah, we definitely see that. Yeah, we definitely see that all the time, and it's really tough. And that is the disease of addiction, right? That is what we deal with on a day-to-day basis of people who have lost hope. I think my clinical director would tell you one of our main jobs is to instill hope in the people that we work with, and so that doesn't happen overnight. And the best way that we can help that is to model it. Right, and we've got excellent staff that model that. We've got a lot of people who have gone through recovery. We've got, I'm sure, as you guys know, a lot of vicious stories out there. A lot of stories of just being really destitute, and we're the comeback kids. We've made it happen, and so we like to share that with our folks and help them, lead towards that. There are instances though where we realize we're not getting the job done, right? And so we've got a lot of folks that we partner with, like Mike, that, I call him up and I say, hey man, this guy's really, really struggling. He's from Texas. He's from this area. This is not a good community for him. And I send him to an affiliate program that we know that we've vetted, we know are giving great care. And we try there. Again, there's no one size fits all when we're talking about restoring hope and restoring someone's life. So that's kind of how we.
Very cool. On the other side, I guess this is probably not the norm, but like, do you ever have anybody that tells you I want to be the president, or I want to be an astronaut, or something like that?
Yeah, well, that's part of what we have to do.
I want to be in the NBA. My dream has always been to be in the NBA.
Hey, well, if you want to go to the NBA, we got to put you with a trainer. We got to have you start right. I'll put them in a position to at least take some steps. But most of the folks that we work with,
You don't tell them, like, come on, man, like, that ain't going to happen. You're not, that's
every once in a while, we do have to do that, right? There's kind of those grandiose visions of what they're going to do, and we say, hey, well, if you're going to be a rock star in front of 10,000 folks, you better start go playing at the coffee shop, right?
Yeah.
We got to kind of set up some things for them that tamper that. But in general, we want to encourage people to do what makes them really, really happy, and give them support through it.
So one question that popped in my mind while we're going here, I wrote a whole list, but do you find with millennials, or maybe they're even younger now, because, well, I don't even know what a millennial is. I think it's like 30 to, I don't know, but if they're college age,
mm-hmm.
do you find that a lot of them actually just, I'm a parent of an 18-year-old and a 16-year-old. They're very different. One has a very strong, has known forever what they want to do, what she wants to do. The other one, is like, no idea. No
mm-hmm.
idea. And actually, the thing that's interesting, and this is my question, is do you find that it's not only like I don't have an idea of what I want to do, but I also really don't care? Like,
mm-hmm.
that's perfectly okay. On one hand, as parents, you want to go, hey, it's okay if you don't know exactly what you want, but, like, it's to the extreme. Like, they're like, don't know.
Sure.
Don't really care. Like, do you
Sure, that apathy. I would say that apathy is a lot of depression, and one thing that the millennials suffer from more than most generations is a really, really high rate of depression. I think a lot of that comes from, honestly, cell phone use. Right? They're out there, they're comparing their life with everybody else. Everybody's only posting all the great things that are happening to them. No one's talking about when they fell flat on their face and we're going through a rough time in life. And so we do take clients' phones when they come in. You would be amazed at what I would consider just the level of cell phone addiction, right, that comes through our doors, especially with the millennial generation. And when we unplug them for a little bit, and they get some time away from that and all those pressures, not caring about all the likes that they're going to get, and they just sit back and think to themselves, what do they want to do? Sometimes we're able to break through that. But the millennials, they definitely do have some serious depression issues. There's also just kind of socioeconomic factors, right? It's hard to find housing. It's hard for them to make enough money to do those types of things. It's hard for them to find a job. So
do most of them, do they stay local to you, or do a lot of them, do they come from a lot of other places, or like do they?
Yeah, so I've got to brag a little bit because I'm a fighting Texas Aggie, and so I'm a big fan of College Station, and I think a lot of the folks who come out there are as well. It's a really beautiful place. To me, it's a great place to start over. So for me, California was a place that I needed to start over. I didn't stay out there forever, but I took a couple of years, and I think a lot of our folks, we encourage them to do that right there in College Station. Just take a couple of years. What's the rush, right? You have everything that you could need here. You have employment. You have academic opportunities, whether it's through the local community college or through Texas A&M itself, and we encourage them to do that, to kind of disconnect. Again, most people that are coming into our care have a pretty difficult home life, whether they choose to acknowledge that or not. It's pretty unstable, and we do know that instability or stress in a home life is a primary indicator for relapse. So yeah, we try and have folks stay out with us.
I really don't know of any other places. I know of one place, but it was a Christian, and it was an idea about a year or so ago with a friend of mine. And I think I even told you I'd be happy to connect you guys that they have, she was in the process of starting a sober house in North Carolina, eBay seller of the year, and was going to teach the people at her place how to sell on eBay while they were there. And the same kind of thing, get a car, get a place, get an apartment, have some scratch. And then they also, they were already earning money while they were but this is a sober living. It's like a year, right? Mm-hmm. So they're already earning money before they left. And I was like, holy shit, this is the key, because I think a lot of it really depends around, I don't have a path. I don't have a vision. I don't give a shit. There's no, why not just get loaded? And then, fuck if I die, I die, I guess.
Yep.
And I think that part of it comes down to, even biblically, I was thinking about this a while ago, we're supposed to work.
Yep.
We're not, I believe the good Lord made work for us, even if it's making your bed or things like that. We're supposed to do things and complete things that make us feel good. So that's why I think this is so revolutionary, man.
Hey, you know, it's all about getting some wins under your belt. You know, I remember when I was out in California, and I had failed out at two different colleges. You know, I was kind of a laughing stock of the family, very successful family. You know, and I wasn't very successful at this time. And I remember I enrolled in community college, and man, I got a C, and I was like, yes, you know, I can't believe it. I finally passed a class, and then next thing I knew, I was, you know, graduating with a 3.9 from Texas A&M University. Right? It's one win at a time. You know, you prove to yourself, I can do this. I can be successful in something. The key is finding what do you want to be successful in, right? And then having support in that first part.
Do you have other places reaching out to you and trying to copy you or say, can you train us or license us? Does that happen at all? I mean, is this
Yeah,
action?
we definitely get a lot of people who are really interested in kind of how we're running our program, and they say, you know, hey, you're a small center. We haven't really heard of you until we really heard of you. What are you guys doing over there, and how are you making this happen? You know, in general, I'm an open book. If you want to know what I'm doing, I'm just really loving people, right? And I'm not in it for the money. So that made it the easiest for me. I think a lot of these centers, you know, there, as you said, there are still great ones out there, but there are so many of them.
And great people that run it with great hearts too, man,
Yeah,
like passionate people.
yeah, absolutely. You know, it's just I was fortunate enough when I started this to say all I want to do is really get people well. If we end up making money as we do it, that's awesome. But all I'm going to do is just reinvest that right back into this. So that's really what we've done.
That's
Which
really kick-ass, man. That's so cool. Give us, you know, before we close out, like, tell us, you know, obviously anonymously, but give me a couple, like, some contrasts and stories about John or Mary that came in and where they were and where they are and stuff like that. I mean, I'm assuming that they stay, that this takes. I mean, my underlying assumption is that this works and that this takes. Is that a good assumption?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I wish I could tell you it works for everybody, but again, you know, there's some folks who've got to go other places. But we've seen great success. You know, I remember when I very first started this. You know, we had someone who came into our program who alcohol had ruined their body, you know, so badly they lost the ability to walk. And so I went into this man's house. I put him on my shoulders and I put him in my truck and I brought him into treatment. About 4 months later, this guy was literally doing handstands in our yoga class, and he's been just one of the huge success stories of MTR and what we do. You know, he's really, really active in the AA community now. That was something that worked really well for him. He's really active in his church community, which we also encourage. And through that, you know, finding that support, we literally took a man who was lame, and now he's walking, he's happy, you know, and guess what? He's helping people. And so that's one of the best parts about this, is you take people who are really, really broken, and when you help them, they pass that on, you know, and
do you find a lot of people that they come there and you're asking them what they want to do, and then over the process while they're there, they're like, I want to do what you do. Does that happen?
Yeah, it's really funny you asked that. Yeah, I actually just had somebody, one of my first clients, when we were actually still just a PHP IOP, so an outpatient facility. He came in to us, and he called me maybe, I don't know, 8-9 months ago, and he's like, hey, I really want to start a program in Waco. Can you help me do this? And so, yeah, we see that happen all the time. I mean, there's something really beautiful about just working with people and helping them. I could probably make more money elsewhere, but I'm not going to get that satisfaction. And I think there are so many people that when they come through this and they've walked through the kind of challenges that they have, they just love helping people. And so that's one of the beautiful things. I'd say another person who came through our program that's kind of a huge success story, you know, for us, was a lady who came out from the Northeast, had been to 5 or 6 different facilities, you know, was on heroin really bad, you know, multiple overdoses, really, you know, knocking on death's door, trying to get fentanyl and meth mixed, and it was just ugly, and had failed at like 5 or 6 other facilities. She failed at our facility 2 or 3 times, and she'd say today, you know, you guys never gave up on me, you know. She's been in our program now for I don't know, 9 months to a year. moving into her own apartment, exactly what I'm talking about, right? Saved her money, got herself a moped, got herself a job at the hospital, and has rebuilt a life for herself. And I think one of the classic reasons I can say this model works is because when she first came in, she always wanted to go back to her area of use, right? Didn't want to complete the whole program. Got 90 to 120 days and was like, man, I got to bail. I got life to go back to. And now she created a new one, and that's kind of what it's all about, creating a new life for yourself.
I love that, man. I really love that, and I could probably bring it in for a close, but I'm gonna ask one more. And I think you answered the question, or the answer popped into my mind at the same time. Is I was going to say, we're really in the midst of an epidemic. It sounds like, I believe that this is a disease. In fact, I think it's a socially contagious epidemic is what I would say. It's not like a virus, but it's the same kind of deal. Whether it's probably you probably catch that shit from your phone, actually, I think, and all your homies that caught it from their phone. But it's overwhelming, man. And there's economic things, there's jobs and towns and stuff like that have just been freaking decimated. Mm-hmm. And so there's a lot of different factors, but it's tidal waves, man. And so my question was going to be, is there hope? Like, can we actually do something? Can we, move the needle? No pun, but can we do something that's measurable? But then I'm thinking, like, well, it's like one bite at a time. Like, what do you think, man? Like, is it possible?
I think we are doing something. Yeah, I think we are doing something. I think, a lot of the areas, unfortunately, what you see is a lot of the areas that have a high concentration of treatment centers, there's a high level, of addiction, right? Those two things go kind of hand in hand. What I would tell you, though, is people who are actually rehabilitated, as I said earlier, have this inward desire to want to help people. And we're seeing that left and right. Everybody wants to talk about the lady that overdosed in her car with her kids, in the back. And that's a really hot topic to discuss. Nobody really wants to talk about the person that, left treatment and made $40,000 a year and lived a happy life and got married, right? That's not a sexy story. So people don't really like to talk about it. It's happening all the time. There are people that are getting well, and they multiply that, in their communities. And that's my goal. When I came to Texas A&M University, I arrived there and I saw that there was just an absolute lack of treatment. In fact, there was a lack of being willing to admit that there were drug issues in our community, right? People not here at Texas A&M, right? Man, it was everywhere, and it was so prevalent. And now, you fast forward this tape 3 years, and you've got the county that calls us, right? They want our help in this thing. And so if you're a treatment provider out there and you put client care first, there's going to be a lot of people that get well. There's going to be a lot of people that get saved.
And if you're a treatment provider and you're interested in this kind of program, it's cool if they contact you or something like that too. I know of a lot of places that would be very interested in integrating.
I'd love to talk with them. I'd love to put them in contact with some of our clinical and medical staff so they can learn a little bit more about what we do and how we do it. I'd love to, collaborate with them and hear about what they're doing. Look, there's plenty of people out there that need help. Let's, stack hands together and get people well.
Really, really, really cool, man. I know you're a real busy guy. I was teasing you a little bit. We were talking, on the phone, and it was like, got to jump type of thing. I was like, man, I'll just get warmed up. But so, first of all, thanks for taking the time. It's really cool to connect with you and to see who you are. Like, I'm very impressed, man. Like, pretty much everybody say, hey, we're not in it for the money, but it really comes through.
Yeah, thank you so much.
It really, really comes through. My hat is off to you. And thanks a ton. This is Drew Stevens with More Than a Rehab, doing some cool stuff. It really is like more than a rehab. And man, thanks a ton for jumping on, Drew.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Hang on just a second, and I'm going to clear out the recording. This has been another cool for me, exclusive interview with Recovery Today magazine. In just 1 second, I'll stop the recording.